Iranian media summed it up with a line that was equal parts mockery and strategic observation. If the United States achieves 3 more victories like this one, they will be completely ruined. They said it while showing the footage, and when you see what that footage contains, the dark humor lands with a precision that no amount of official American messaging can blunt. What happened in the hours before this transmission is not a setback in the conventional sense of the word. It is a catastrophe, and the reason the major Western networks are not showing you the images, not running the footage, not leading with the story, not giving it the wall-to-wall coverage it would receive if the losses had occurred on the other side, is precisely because the images speak for themselves in a way that no official framing can recontextualize. We are going to show you the full picture. We are going to walk through the numbers honestly, and we are going to examine what Donald Trump's response to all of this tells you about the actual state of the campaign, because his words over the past 48 hours are as revealing as any battlefield report. If you are watching from Report for the first time, subscribe right now. This is what we do every single day. Hit that button and let's go through this completely. Let's start with the rescue operation, because that is where the losses that are being most carefully managed in the official American narrative actually occurred. And the management is not subtle. It is a near-total blackout on a story that Reuters and Sky News in the United Kingdom have both independently confirmed. American forces dispatched C-130J Super Hercules aircraft and Black Hawk helicopters to conduct a rescue operation in the aftermath of the aircraft losses we covered in our previous transmission. The C-130J is not a combat aircraft. It is a large military transport, a workhorse of American logistics and special operations, capable of carrying significant numbers of personnel. Each C-130J costs approximately $67 million. More importantly, each C-130J on a rescue mission carries not just a pilot, but a crew, multiple personnel, typically including both flight crew and the rescue or special operations elements who are the purpose of the mission. A conservative estimate for a rescue configuration would be 5 to 6 personnel per aircraft minimum, and in special operations rescue configurations, the number can be considerably higher. Iran intercepted those aircraft. 2 C-130Js were hit, 2 Black Hawk helicopters were engaged. The images that Iranian military sources released and that Fars News initially reported before Reuters and Sky News picked up and confirmed the story show wreckage consistent with the destruction of large military aircraft, not damage, not forced landings, wreckage. Do the arithmetic that the official American account is designed to prevent you from doing 2 C-130Js at a minimum of 5 personnel each, 10 American soldiers on those aircraft alone, 2 Black Hawks at approximately 6 crew each in a combat rescue configuration, 12 more. That is 22 American military personnel potentially killed in a single rescue operation that went catastrophically wrong. A rescue mission dispatched to recover personnel from the aircraft losses the day before that itself turned into a disaster, and the official response from Washington has been to acknowledge one recovery, describe minor injuries to helicopter crews, and move on. The images that exist of this operation, images that Iranian military sources released and that multiple independent analysts have examined, do not show minor damage and successful departures. They show the kind of destruction that does not produce survivors without extraordinary circumstances, and the complete absence of any search and rescue activity in the aftermath, noted by multiple regional and non-Western media outlets, is consistent with the possibility that there were no survivors to search for. We want to be transparent about what we know and what we do not know, because intellectual honesty is the foundation of everything we do here. We know that the rescue operation occurred. Both Iranian and American sources confirm it. We know that the aircraft dispatched in that operation were hit. The imagery exists and has been confirmed by Western outlets, including Reuters. We know that one crew member from the primary downed aircraft has been officially acknowledged as missing and unaccounted for since the initial shootouts. We know that no government has accounted publicly for all the personnel involved in the rescue operation. We know that the official casualty figures coming from Washington are wildly inconsistent with the scale of hardware that was destroyed. What we do not know with certainty is the precise number of casualties. What we do not know is the status of personnel aboard the C-130JS. What we do not know is whether any of the Black Hawk crew members were killed in addition to being wounded, as the American official account describes. What the available evidence strongly suggests is that the official American casualty accounting is incomplete in ways that, when filled in by the physical evidence of what was destroyed and the silence from non-Western media about any rescue, recovery activity in the area, point toward a significantly worse outcome than Washington is publicly acknowledging. Now let's turn to Donald Trump's public communications over the past 48 hours, because they are a remarkable document of psychological and strategic collapse that deserves to be examined in full. On one hand, Trump has been signaling through back channels and diplomatic intermediaries a desire for a 48-hour ceasefire, a pause in hostilities. On the other hand, on his social media platform Truth Social, he has been posting messages that represent some of the most unhinged public communications ever produced by a sitting American president in a time of conflict. The actual words he wrote, and these are his words, published publicly, reported by multiple outlets, including mainstream American media: "Open the dam straight, you crazy bastards, or you will live in hell." He threatened to destroy Iranian power plants and bridges. He said Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all in one in Iran. He told a Fox News journalist that he is considering blowing everything up and seizing Iranian oil. Read those statements again with fresh eyes. A sitting president of the United States, during an active military conflict in which his forces are taking serious losses, is publishing social media posts threatening to blow everything up and seize oil, using profanity directed at a foreign government, and announcing specific strike targets by day of the week on a public platform. In the same 48-hour window, through separate channels, he is simultaneously asking for a ceasefire. Iranian media did not need to do anything to frame this as a demonstration of weakness. The statements frame themselves. When a military commander starts screaming obscenities at an adversary who has just destroyed their aircraft and rescue mission, that is not the communication of someone who believes they are winning. It is the communication of someone who has run out of answers and is hoping that the volume and the anger will substitute for the leverage and the options that no longer exist. The contradiction at the center of Trump's behavior deserves to be named explicitly, because it is not just a public relations problem, it is a strategic problem with real operational consequences. You cannot credibly negotiate while insulting. You cannot meaningfully threaten someone who has just spent weeks demonstrating that your threats do not materialize on the timeline you announce them. You cannot ask for a 48-hour pause, which every military analyst recognizes as a request for time to restock munitions, evacuate casualties, and reorganize broken lines, while simultaneously publishing social media posts announcing that Tuesday is going to be Bridge Day. Anyone reading both communications at the same time, which Iran is certainly doing, concludes that the ceasefire request is genuine and the social media bravado is performance for a domestic audience that the administration is desperately trying to manage. Iran's response to all of this was a single word: functionally no. Iranian military sources, as reported by Fars and confirmed by Reuters, communicated through back channels that there would be no ceasefire, no pause, no accommodation, and no negotiation on terms that resemble what Washington is offering. The attacking will continue, the engagement will continue, and Iran will continue to document its successful operations and publish the footage, while the Western media apparatus tries to manage what reaches the American public. Trump said Iran would beg for a deal. The entity that was asking for a ceasefire last night was Washington. The entity that said no was Thran. Reuters confirmed it, Sky News reported it, and that inversion of Trump's own prediction is now documented in Western media sources that cannot be dismissed as Iranian propaganda. Let's now step back and look at the deeper structural failure that today's events expose, because the specific losses, however catastrophic, are symptoms of a more fundamental problem that will not be solved by any individual tactical adjustment. The United States military is the most expensive fighting force ever assembled in human history. The hardware it deploys represents the apex of what industrial civilization has produced in terms of aerial warfare capability. The F-35 is the product of approximately 30 years of concentrated aerospace engineering development. The C-130J is a continuously updated platform representing decades of refinement. The Black Hawk has been the backbone of American rotary wing operations for nearly half a century. None of this equipment is cheap. None of it is easy to replace, and none of it is designed to operate in the kind of environment that Iran has created in this theater. Here is the comparison that crystallizes the problem. The F-35 entered operational service in 2016. It is 10 years old. The Shahed drone, Iran's primary asymmetric strike weapon in this conflict, began mass military deployment in 2022. It is 4 years old. The aircraft the United States is relying on to assert air dominance in this conflict is older than the drone being used to challenge it. And the drone costs a fraction of what the aircraft costs to produce, maintain, and operate. The F-35 represents 30 years of aerospace engineering evolution. It represents Cold War and post-Cold War thinking about air dominance. The idea that technological superiority expressed through an extraordinarily capable but extraordinarily expensive single platform would provide decisive military advantage against any adversary. The Shahed represents a different theory of warfare entirely, not quality volume, not precision saturation, not thousand components. $20,000 complete weapon systems produced at a rate that outpaces the defender's ability to intercept them at the cost required. This is not an original insight. Military theorists have been writing about this tension for years. The offset strategy, the American doctrine of using technological superiority to compensate for numerical disadvantage, was designed for a world in which adversaries could not produce capable weapons cheaply and quickly enough to overwhelm it. That world no longer exists. Iran has proven it does not exist. And the American military-industrial complex, whose financial model depends on the continued production of enormously expensive individual platforms, has no institutional incentive to acknowledge the obsolescence of the doctrine it profits from. The cost asymmetry deserves to be spelled out in numbers because abstract descriptions of quality versus quantity do not fully convey the financial mathematics of what is happening. One American MQ-9 Reaper drone costs approximately $30 million. One Iranian Shahed drone costs between $20,000 and $35,000. The exchange ratio when Iran shoots down a Reaper with a Shahed or associated air defense system is between 800 and 500 to 1 in Iran's favor. One F-35 costs approximately $100 million. One Iranian surface-to-air missile capable of engaging it costs a fraction of that. One C-130J cost $67 million. The missile that destroyed it cost a small percentage of that. Now multiply these ratios across the scale of what has been lost in this conflict. The dozens of aircraft, the scores of drones, the refueling platforms, the AWACS systems, the base infrastructure, and the financial picture that emerges is of a campaign that is consuming American military capital at a rate that is structurally unsustainable. The $100 billion emergency funding request we covered in a previous transmission is not going to be the last such request. The trajectory of consumption versus replenishment. Given that the United States produced only 57 Tomahawk missiles last year from a single factory, given that F-35 production runs at a handful of aircraft per month, given that every interceptor missile used to shoot down an Iranian drone costs exponentially more than the drone being shot down, points toward a progressive degradation of American military readiness that no funding authorization can fully reverse. In the time frame this conflict is operating on, there is a fourth dimension of failure in this conflict that tends to get less attention than the tactical and financial ones, but that may ultimately be the most consequential: the failure to adapt. American military doctrine was developed in a specific historical context, the Cold War and its aftermath, a period when the United States faced adversaries whose military technology was in most cases comparable to or derived from the same industrial tradition as American equipment. The playbook developed in that context has specific characteristics. It relies on air superiority achieved by destroying enemy air defenses through dedicated suppression operations. It relies on precision strike capability delivered by aircraft operating in airspace that has been cleared of threats. It relies on the ability to sustain operations from forward bases that provide logistical support for the campaign, and it relies on the assumption that the adversary cannot produce weapons fast enough, cheaply enough, or in sufficient quantity to saturate the defense systems protecting those bases and aircraft. Every one of those assumptions has been invalidated in this theater. Iranian air defenses have not been cleared. They keep shooting down aircraft. The forward bases have been struck repeatedly, and some have been rendered non-operational. The production rate of Iranian drones and missiles has not been degraded to the point where saturation attacks have become impossible, and the adversary has demonstrated the ability to adapt its tactics and targeting within the conflict, targeting refueling aircraft to reduce American range, targeting AWACS platforms to blind American air operations, targeting rescue assets to impose costs on casualty recovery that compound the original battlefield losses. The American response to each of these failures has been to escalate the sophistication and cost of the next instrument deployed from F-35s to B-2 bombers to B-52s rather than to fundamentally reconsider the doctrine. That escalation ladder has a top rung, and the language Trump is now using in his public communications, the threats to destroy everything, the references to options he has not yet used, suggests that the administration can see that top rung from where it is standing and is not sure what comes after it. What today demonstrated with imagery that even Reuters and Sky News felt compelled to report is a summary of where this conflict actually stands. American intelligence failed. Again, the assessment that Iranian air defenses had been destroyed, the assessment that the rescue operation was viable, the assessment that Iranian forces would not engage large transport aircraft conducting a humanitarian rescue mission, all wrong. American logistics failed. The operation designed to recover personnel from the first failure became a second and potentially larger failure. American morale is taking damage. Soldiers who know that their commanders send them into operations based on assessments that turn out to be catastrophically wrong do not perform with the confidence that effective military operations require. And American adaptability has failed. The same pattern of underestimating Iran that produced the losses on day 1 of this conflict is producing losses on day 40 and beyond. Meanwhile, Trump is on Truth Social, calling Iranian leaders crazy bastards and announcing that Tuesday will be Bridge Day and asking for a ceasefire at the same time. Iran said no. Reuters confirmed it. The war that was supposed to end in 2 weeks has now produced a rescue mission that became a massacre, a social media meltdown from the commander-in-chief, and a ceasefire request that the side that was supposed to be begging for deals flatly rejected. We will keep tracking every development here on From Report every single day. The losses, the failures, the financial collapse, and the psychological unraveling of the people making the decisions. Subscribe to this channel now. Share this video with everyone who deserves the full picture. Join us live Monday through Friday. The mainstream media will bury this story before the end of the news cycle. We will be here tomorrow with whatever comes next. We will see you in the next